Hi, this is Matthew Robert Payne. This is called The Parables of the Labourers in the Vineyard. I'm Matthew Robert Payne. I've self-published 55 Christian books at a cost of $120,000. I've published 850 articles on a free article database website called eZine Articles, E-Z-I-N-E Articles. And I've got 2,500 YouTube videos. This parable will be part of a playlist which will include 54 parables on a playlist on my YouTube channel that you can find under the button playlist. And I hope that you enjoy this parable. And if you do enjoy it, I encourage you to like, comment, and share it with other people. So with no further ado, we'll just go to the parable and read it. And I'm going to become a little person. So this is a bit of text in this one. So I'm going to read it through, and then we're going to discuss it. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire labourers in his vineyard. Now, when he'd agreed with the labourers for a denarius a day, he sent them into his vineyard. And he went out about the third hour and saw others standing idle in the marketplace. He said to them, "You also go into the vineyard, and whatever is right I will give to you." Then they went. Again he went out about the sixth and ninth hour and did likewise. And about the 11th hour he went out and found others standing idle. And he said to them, "Why have you been standing idle all day?" They said to him, "Because no one has hired us." He said to them, "You also go to the vineyard, and whatever is right I'll give you, you will receive." So when evening had come, and the owner of the vineyard said to his steward, "Call the labourers and give them their wages, beginning with the last to the first." And when those who came were hired in the 11th hour, they each received a denarius. But when the first came, they supposed they would receive more, and they likewise received each a denarius. When they'd received it, they complained against the landowner, saying, "These men have worked only 1 hour, and you made them equal to us, who have borne the burden and the heat of the day." But he answered to one of them and said, "Friend, I am doing no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a denarius? Take what is yours and go your way. I wish to give to this last man the same as you. Is it not lawful for me to do what I wish with my own things? Or is your eye evil because I am good?" So the last will be first and the first last. For many called and few are chosen. Now, I don't need the text. Oh, yeah, well, I'll go through the text. So just a little me talking. So I hope you enjoyed me talking. I imagine you've heard this parable 100 times. I imagine if you spent time in church, you've heard this 5 or 6 times, maybe 100 times. But I don't imagine you'll hear this interpretation very often. And this had an application in Jesus' day. There were rabbis that had been around for years, old rabbis. And then there was Peter, who was sent home from rabbi school and became a fisherman. And all he ever wanted to do was serve God, and all he ever wanted to do was be a rabbi. Jesus came along when Peter was older. He was married, he probably had a child, he had a mother-in-law. And Jesus said, "Follow me," which a rabbi used to say to his best student, and his student used to become an apprentice. So Peter, right at the end of the time when he'd spent so much time fishing, he was chosen and he became one of the greatest apostles. He was an 11th hour worker. So I just used that example for that day. But there's people listening to this. There's people reading this book when this becomes a book. people like me, I was officially called at the age of 14, and in March 2021, it'll be 40 years since I've been called. I'm still not doing what I've been called to do. I'm still not in churches and on stages preaching the word of God. And so I've just kept busy waiting. Now, you'll see that the worker he hired first, he made an agreement with a day's wage, a denarius. That's like, I don't know, in Australia, that's about 180, 200 Australian dollars for the day. But in Israel, that was a day's wages. So he agreed for $200 Australian for the day. And he was fine with that. The only time he wasn't fine was when he'd found out the guy in the 11th hour got a denarius. Then suddenly he wanted 2 or 3 because he'd worked the whole day. Now, that's still talking about the parable. Let's bring it to the modern day, shall we? Benny Hinn and Joyce Meyer have been around for 20 years, 25, 30 years. Nicky Cruz has been around since the 70s. They're the people that were hired in the first hour. They've got big names for themselves. They've got big reputations. And then there's people that have been waiting for 40 years like myself. They're going to be raised up in the very last hour and given very big platforms, become really popular. In fact, the people that are coming into the kingdom of God and going to be used in the last hour, they're going to have some of the greatest, biggest, most powerful ministries the world has ever seen. And when all the finances and all the support and all the people start rushing into these last hour workers, there's prophecy saying the unknown, the unnamed, faceless, nameless generation. There's a famous prophecy that talks about that. How unknown guys will be going preaching in stadiums and no one will know who they are. When these guys get the reputation and the finances and the support of the people and become the crowd favourites, the people that have been labouring for 30 and 40 years, sadly, this parable predicts as a prophecy, are going to be jealous and are going to be complaining and are going to be out of sorts. Now, some of these people have been around for 30 and 40 years, and I really love Joyce Meyer, and you know, I've got some questions about Benny Hinn, but some of these people will try and align with the new breed, with the new guard that's rising up. But some of them won't be able to because they'll be part of the old wineskin, and the new guys are going to be bringing the new wine, and the old religious wineskin won't be able to fit. The people who raise up in the last hour, these 11th hour workers, they won't be in it for money. All the money will being given away and shared, and it won't be about their name and their ministry and their power and their influence and conferences they're speaking at and their books. It'll all be all about Jesus, and it'll be a new breed and a new wine and a new way of doing business. So the people that were hired at the 3rd hour and the 9th hour, these are people that haven't been in ministry as long, so they won't be as jealous. Someone who's a last hour worker, 11th hour worker, who's currently in the world at the moment, who's been ministering for a number of years, is Todd White. He's only new to the Christian arena, and he's in 11th hour, and so is Kanye West, the rap singer. He's an 11th hour worker, and he's part of the new wine. Over the coming years, over the next few years, you're going to see these unknown people rising up and getting great platforms and great reputation in hearts of the people. They're going to win the hearts of the people. God's going to do his major work through these new people who've been waiting years and years, years and years and years and years. Now, I don't know about you, but in some towns you can go to a place, cities, and you just wait to be picked, to be worked. If someone has spent 11 hours standing on a street corner waiting for someone all day to be picked up, and he stayed to the 11th hour hoping that he might just get an hour's work, do you know what one good thing about that person is? They're desperate to be used. They're desperate. They've got a wife and child at home that need a feed, and an hour's work may get the meals for the next day. Might just get one meal. But whatever it is about these guys that have been in 11, they've never quit waiting. They've trusted in the Lord, and they've trusted and they've trusted, and they've never given up on their dream. Where you won't be there waiting for 11 hours. You won't be waiting to be used in ministry for 30 or 40 years if you don't have faith in God. You would have given up. You won't be waiting. So the guys who waited 11 hours on the side of the road, when the landowner asked them, "What are you doing here?" They said, "No one hired us." They've done a full day's work. They've been out in the sunshine. They haven't been sitting under a bench. They've been working all day, not doing anything. What do you think is more interesting, working or being bored? One of the hard things about being unemployed is having nothing to do. You not only got no purpose, you've got nothing to do. I don't know how it is in America, where most of you are listening to this and most of you are reading the book. I don't know how it is in America, but in Australia, daytime TV will make you like put needles in your eyes. It's just so boring. Lucky we got YouTube and other things these days, because daytime TV in Australia at least is just so boring. I know in America you got so many channels and cable and stuff, you might be able to be entertained, but when you're unemployed or you got a disability pension like me, unless you find something to do, life can get really depressing. So these 11th hour workers, these people waiting all day, they've put in a full day's work waiting, and they've done it tougher sometimes with no purpose, no direction, and nothing to do, and being bored all day. You imagine standing on the street for 11 hours or sitting in the shade for 11 hours. I mean, even the people you're talking to are losers too. I mean, they're not the fittest. They must be the oldest and the guys that don't look the fittest, and they're not the youngest. You know, if people are just turning up and picking people according to looks and a brief conversation, the people that hung around for 11 hours, they're losers, man. They've been interviewed and looked at all day, and no one's picked them. So there's another thing about the 11th hour workers that are going to come into the harvest field that have been waiting all day. They're losers. No one would give them a chance. And that's why they're not in ministry, because they don't look the part. They don't talk the part. They don't dress the part. And there are a weird lot of people that are going to be raised up in the last days. And I don't know if you perceived it, but I'm talking about myself. So I hope that gives you perspective. Of course, the Apostle Peter was one of them. He hadn't been waiting 40 years, but he certainly wanted to be a rabbi when he was 13 or 14. And I imagine he's about 26, so he'd been waiting a while. Okay, so if you like this, press like. If you didn't like it, down thumb it. If you want to comment and encourage me, I'd encourage you to encourage me. Shane and Dundee, please leave your comments. If you want to share this, share this. If you want to subscribe to my channel, press subscribe, press the bell, and press the word all, and you'll be notified about new videos of mine. You don't have to watch them all, but watch the ones you're interested in. I hope you enjoy this, and God bless.